welcome to Recent Library Reads number 9. Today I've got quite the stack to talk about. These are books I read from September 3rd through 25th. So I've got a lot of types of books I've read in the past. Got some Arthur books, Who Was books, things like those, and I'll just go over them and tell a little bit more about them. Some of these books I will be uploading individual reviews of, and if I'll be doing that, I'll let you know in this video in case you would like to hear my more in-depth thoughts on some of these books. I guess we'll talk about the Arthur books first. So this time, all the ones I got were seasonal, based on some kind of holiday, and I just get whichever Arthur books my library has at the time that I place holds. So these happen to be all the ones that were available, so I read them in the order that the holiday appears in the year. So this time I got Arthur's Valentine, Arthur's Halloween, Arthur's Thanksgiving, and Arthur's Christmas. I've watched some more of the show since making my last Recent Library Reads video, and that has been enjoyable. It's definitely a nice, wholesome thing to consume, and I think it's good for me. So, about each of these books, Arthur's Valentine I thought was alright. It's one of the older books, and you can tell by the art style, like, the cover is updated, but the characters definitely have their older designs here. This one was decent. Arthur's Halloween I thought was good. I think this one has some really nice illustrations. I think the art in these books is really good sometimes. I think it's good in general. Though it does have a rather unsettling, out-of-place looking human character when all the other characters are animals, so I saw someone on Reddit say that the vintage Arthur books are kind of cursed, or something like that. I think it's nice that these books just have a holiday theme, especially with some of these books taking place in school, so it's kind of nostalgic, makes me think about celebrating holidays in elementary school. Arthur's Thanksgiving was just okay to me. Some of these books I like more than others, and generally I feel like I like the show more. I think it's better, but I think that the books are decent. I don't think that they're bad. Either way, I'm really thankful for Arthur, and I think it's ultimately a good series. Like just the franchise in general, the books and the TV show, but especially the show. And then in Arthur's Christmas, this one has some really nice illustrations as well. I think this one was pretty decent. I think with library books, it's so cool to think about how many people, especially if they're a really old book, have read these books before, compared to if we just buy a new book, it's only ever been ours, and that's nice too. But I think it's really cool to think about how old library books have been checked out and experienced by so many people, and we basically share that together without really knowing the other person's story or experience with them. Now I'm going to talk about the Who Was books, these junior biographies that I really love and read a lot of, and I've still got some more I want to check out. There are just so many, and new ones come out every year. So I read a few of these recently, starting with Who Were the Brothers Grimm by Avery Reed. This one was interesting. I learned a lot I didn't really know in this book. Some of the subjects I read about in these books I know more about than others. But this one, something I found interesting was, I guess I didn't really know the origin of those stories, and I guess I thought that the brothers had written the stories, but it's actually about how storytelling evolved over time, and how before people would just tell the stories and they didn't get written down or recorded, but they wanted to put together a book with those stories to preserve them, and so I thought that was interesting. So I think they may have changed or edited them a bit, but this is really about how they preserve those stories that we know today. They also worked on a dictionary, so that was interesting. I especially like reading any of these books that are about artists and or writers. I also recently read Who Was Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart by Yona Zeldis McDonough. This one was pretty interesting. I didn't know a whole lot about Mozart and I wanted to learn more, so this was interesting and definitely helped me learn more. Now on to some food-related ones. Next was Who Was Milton Hershey by James Buckley Jr. This one I found really interesting. In this case, I pretty much just knew the name but nothing about the person, but this one I really enjoyed and found really interesting. In fact, this one I will be doing a separate review of. Up until now, I've never done an individual review of a Who Was book. It just hasn't felt needed. I've always just talked about them in my Recent Library Reads videos and say a little bit about them, and then that's it. But with this one, I found a lot of it interesting, and there were a lot of things I wanted to talk about further. So my individual review of this won't be very long, but I wanted to talk about it a little more. And so I decided, why not? For some Who Was books, or any other books, no matter how small they may be, I can make individual reviews of them if I want to. So I won't be doing a review of every single of these books that I read, but some of them from now on if I want to. So yeah, this one was really interesting. It was really nice to learn more about this person. And then I read Who Was H.J. Heinz by Michael Bergen, and this one I also found pretty interesting. Maybe not as much as Who Was Milton Hershey, but this one I will also have an individual review going up of. This was another case where I didn't really know anything about the person, but I think this one was similar to Who Was Milton Hershey in some ways, and this one was pretty interesting as well. And these books are always very educational. They teach you more about history, and I think that's great. Now we're going to move on to some entertainers. So then I read Who Was Walt Disney by Whitney Stewart. This one was pretty interesting. I like a lot of Disney stuff, so I knew some of the things in this book, but not everything. So this is the kind of thing where these books are pretty small. They've got to be a certain length, just a little over 100 pages, so there's just some information that can't be put in here. So it could have been longer, but I know that these books just aren't. That's just not how they are. But with what it had, I think it had some interesting information. So yeah, this was pretty good. And then I read Who Was P.T. Barnum by Kirsten Anderson. This one was interesting as well. I learned a lot of things I didn't know. I know that the circus had its last run in 2017, and I actually went to it then. Put some photos on screen, so that was a cool thing to experience. Something else I found interesting about this book is it talks about the singer Jenny Lind, who I didn't really know about before. I know there's the movie The Greatest Showman, but I've never watched it. Let me know if you think I should. Anyway, it was interesting learning about Jenny Lind and how, like, the book said that at that point, people, I think specifically American people, though it might have just been people in general, didn't really know of many famous people besides the president and a few military heroes. So Jenny Lind was an example of an early celebrity, and it's interesting seeing how people got really excited about her and would buy a bunch of merch with anything that had her on it. So that was interesting to see how that was then, how that kind of thing started. So this one had some interesting stuff in it. I also checked out and read the second and third volumes of Heartstopper by Alice Oseman, and I enjoyed these very much, and I will have individual reviews of these two up as well. I'm really starting to love this series and the main relationship within it. In fact, at the time of recording this, just yesterday, I started watching the Netflix show. I looked up when to start watching it based on what part of the series you're in, so I think right now I can watch the beginning of it. I've only seen the first episode so far, but I enjoyed it. So far, it seems like a good, faithful adaptation. I've heard it's a faithful adaptation, and it seems like it. So I think it'll be exciting and interesting to see where that goes, as well as the graphic novel series in general. I am very excited to read the rest of it. And lastly, I read another of the Fear Street books by R.L. Stine. A couple months ago, I read The Perfect Date. More recently, I checked out The Rich Girl. I thought this one was pretty good. I will be having an individual review of this one going up as well. So all the books mentioned in this video that I will have an individual review of going up are Heartstopper Volume 2, Heartstopper Volume 3, Who Was Milton Hershey, Who Was H.J. Hines, and this book, The Rich Girl. This is part of his young adult horror / maybe it could also be considered a thriller series by the author of Goosebumps, but a bit more mature and graphic. This book is about two girls who are best friends who find a bag full of money and they want to keep it, but one girl has a boyfriend, the other girl doesn't trust him, and she fears what he might do to get the money for himself. So that's what it's about. Pretty simple plot, but I thought it was an interesting, thrilling story. And this one definitely had a very psychological component to it, which I thought was interesting. I think I might have liked this one a bit more than The Perfect Date. At least the main character was much more likable. If that sounds interesting to you and you'd like to hear my more in-depth thoughts of it, you can watch my review when it comes out. So those are my recent library reads. I got pretty caught up. Some of these books I had on hold for a while, like The Rich Girl I think was on its third renewal or something, but that's okay, that's fine. No one else has put it on hold, so I can keep it for as long as I want. Well, not as long as I want. I think you can renew it like 5 times or so, but it's probably good for the library to keep renewing it. I just hadn't gotten to it yet, but now I have. There are 2 other books I got. One I DNF'd and one I thought I wasn't going to read, but I decided I want to, and one I haven't read yet but plan on getting to very soon, like later today. But for the most part, I've gotten caught up on my library books, and the next time I go to the library, I won't be getting as many books, but still a few, so I'm really excited about that, and thank you for watching.